Vasudeva Sudam Devam Kamsho Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnan Vande Jagadguru. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We salute Bhagavan Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the destroyer of the demons, Kamsa and Chanura, and the darling of Mother Devaki, who is the Guru of the entire universe. We salute him again and again. Oh, peace, peace, peace. So we are back to our reading on the Srimad Bhagavatam, and we are in the third book, chapter 26, and there is Kopila Upadesha is this special chapter. The advice of Kapila, the incarnation avatar to Mother Devahuti. So we read up to verse number 14. Just to connect, it says that Kapila was describing that the Purusha and Prakriti. Kapila is the propounder of the philosophy of Sankhya philosophy. And Sankhya philosophy is the foundation of the Vedanta. And that is the 24 cosmic principle. Purusha is the conscious entity, is the eternal entity, unchanging entity. It is the illuminator of everything. And Prakriti is the jada, the matter. Matter has no power of its own. But matter appears to be active in the presence of Purusha. This whole universe is matter. Jada means matter. As like a table, piece of wood. It's all insentient. Jada means insentient. But how it looks like this? Everything is so active and vibrant. Trees, plants, human being, everything is active. What is the force behind it? The consciousness makes it alive. Like the oven, heat of the oven makes the rice and potato and all vegetables being cooked and also jumping, showing that they are alive. But that is not their own power, it is the Purusha. So Sankhya says, if one knows this, that Purusha is this conscious entity, Prakriti is this insentient, perfectly known this distinction, then that person is free from all suffering and pain and duality. This mixing has made us go through this experience of life, and when it is separated, Purusha, then the consciousness is not the reality. The consciousness, I know that consciousness, I am the consciousness, and separate from then all these elements. Gunas are 24 principles. Then we are free. We are falsely identifying, seeing the jumping of the mind, jumping of the senses, jumping of the hand, feet, and all these things. We see, seemingly, we think they are all reality, all are functioning by their own strength. But when one has the wisdom, knowing fully well it is all separate, then the problem will be gone, and one will be, according to Sankhya, that will be their wisdom. And that person will be free from all bondage. Now, that is the advice, And here is the philosophy. It's first spoken by Kapiladev, the incarnation avatar, one of the avatar, telling his mother, Devanti. So last we said 11 to 14 verse, it is compacted in this way that evolutes of Prakriti. Prakriti evolves in what way? In 24 ways. Keep the shoes not there, little away from the entrance point. Yeah. So this is the evolutes of Prakriti are 24. That means what are the 24? So 24 things are here. 24 is they are five great elements. We talked about it several times. Five great elements. What are the great elements? City of Tej Murud Bomb. So earth element, water element, fire element, air element, and space or akasha element. This grows, in which we are seeing, no? There is the air element, fire element, the heat in the body, or in the sun, in the moon, wherever you find it. Element of fire. Space, of course, we are walking in the space, akasha. And the earth element, or earth body is made of earth element. Whatever food we take grows in the earth, and the rice, potato, this, that, whatever we eat is the earth element. Water element, of course, without water, this gross water, no one can survive. So these are the five gross elements. Then he says five, there are five tanmatras, means subtle elements. What are the subtle elements? They're the same five, not this gross but subtle. Subtle means when you go to dream, there are also these five elements are there. There is air, we breathe, our dream body breathes air. No? Dream body eats something, earth element, fire element. Dream body moves around a space that is called mental space, no? Monoakasa. And there also water, not this water, but the subtle water, essence of this water. And water, air of course, the breathing. Fire is also there. So these are the five gross elements, five subtle elements, 10. And five tanmatras, subtle elements, they are the objects of the smell, taste, touch, color, etc., which are so called because they form the subtle condition from which the gross elements have come. From the subtle things, this gross has come. There are 10 organs. 10 organs. What are the 10 organs? You know, Chakshu, Karna, Nasika, Jiva, Tok. The organs of action and organs of knowledge. Eyes, etc., are the organs of knowledge to which gain knowledge. And hand, feet, etc., through which we do our movement and other karma work. So there are 10 organs consisting of 5 organs of knowledge. They are called ear, skin, eye, tongue, and nose, as well as 5 organs of action called the speech, back, panipada, payupasta. So the speech, the hands, the feet, the organs of generation and of excretion. So then these are the 20. So 25 gross elements, five dream elements, 5 actions, organ of action, 5 organs of perception, 5 times 4, 20. And 4. What are the 4? 4 are called, there are 4 psychological categories. All 4 are in the mind. That is, one is called mind, manas. That is the function of the thought. Buddhi, understanding the functions of the determination, etc. Ahankara, the ego sense with the function, and chitta, the mind which remembers past stories. But it is only, you can say, one. All mind functioning in 4 positions: mind, intellect, ego, and the remembering faculty. So 20 plus 4, this is 24. Now, today's reading, 15 parts. The evolutes of Prakriti, constituted of gunas, have thus been described by me as 24. Kopila says, I have described it before. I have propounded this theory. So I have described this before, that these gunas have 24 gunas or qualities are the foundation of this creation. Besides the 24 categories, there is time as the 25th. Some people say 25th factor is when it happens, all these things, in time it happens. In time when these elements come in touch with consciousness, Purusha, then the manifested universe functions. Otherwise, left to itself, if you put the potato in one place, rice in another place, your all vegetables in one place, cooking items, everything, oil, spices, etc., and keep the fire in another place, nothing cooking will do. But when the cooking will start, when they come in proximity, then there is a time factor. So that is the 25th factor, is the time. Of course, it says 16 verse says, some, however, are of the opinion that time is not included in Prakriti, but rather is a power of Purusha, which incites the fear of death in embodied beings who have wrongly become identified with the evolutes of the Prakriti and absorbed in the ego sense, which is one of these evolutes. So some people say that 25th is included as death, right? Because death of this dualistic existence. When you separate out, you will focus on the consciousness only. Consciousness is the factor which makes this whole world function. So, which is one of the evil. For the time sense of every embodied being is like a line with 2 ends marked by birth and death. Time means we are born in one time, this physical body ends in another time. So it is marked by 2. And all the events crowding it form a continuous flow. In our life, time means it's a continuous going on. And what is that? It is a continuous flow of our all actions, thoughts, our life, our suffering, our pleasure, our pain. Time is that. As clicking of the time going on. No. See, our life is moving on. And what is our life? It is taking this touch of joy or suffering or pain or pleasure. All these things are happening in time. It is the power of Purusha. Some say it is the Kopila's opinion that this time factor, some say is the 25th factor is the time, but time is not to be considered separate because it is inherent in Purusha. Purusha Desire is the conscious entity. Insentient items cannot do anything. Conscious entity can think, I want to unite. I want to be. And when they unite, then creation starts, birth starts, grows on every day. And time comes, death comes. So the whole play happens in time.
Isn't Purusha beyond time?
Now that's why Purusha contains the time. That is the idea here that we read just now. The verse number 16 says, it is that some, however, are of the opinion that time is not included in Prakriti. It is not in the Prakriti. But where then it comes? But rather it's power of Purusha. Some may say time is also Jada. No. But that may be one opinion, but some philosophers think that way. But Kopila's opinion, he says, it is the power, time is the power embedded. As we say, the Brahman has the power of Shakti manifesting. Here is time is the thing where creation starts. Time is that where creation ends. Separation happens. No? So this is but rather it is the power of Purusha, which incites the fear of death. At a time, incites fear in death. To whom? To the embodied beings, the created beings, which have become identified, wrongly become identified with the evolutes of Prakriti and absorbed in the ego sense. And he has identified to the ego. Our ego is me. All of us, we are identifying with our ego. Who is thinking that consciousness is the real ego behind me? No. So this is happening in time. In time, and all the experience of pleasure and pain is coming in the time. And when time comes, this body drops off, so you get disconnected. Time is also 17%. Time is also described as the Bhagavan himself, as his role of starting the initial movement in Prakriti, by virtue of which the equilibrium of the three gunas, Prakriti, disposition of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, is disturbed. So they say that time is also described by some philosophers, that time is Bhagavan. Sanko is not, Sanko believes in Ishvara, Nirishwar Sanko, and Sheshwar Yoga. Sanko and Yoga philosophy is the same. The Yoga, there is Ishvara. Ishvara Pranidhanadva, Yoga Sutra. You can attain this separation by grace of Ishvara. So Ishvara is considered as time, as in Hinduism we call time is Kala. We call Mahakala, Shiva.
Yeah, because the Shiva is the Yoga Guru, and that is why Shiva is the highest level in Mahakala.
Mahakala. It's a great time. But we are reading now Sanko, so we have to think this way. Time is also described as the Bhagavan himself, because in him, in his role of why Bhagavan, what he does, it initiates movement in Prakriti. Prakriti was there. He initiates movement. When he comes in touch, he says, I will be many. I will create. So he percolates into it. By virtue of its equilibrium, normally it stays in three gunas in equilibrium. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Three gunas are equilibrium. When it is in equilibrium, there is no creation. And disbalance comes, some desire comes, and the disbalance starts creation, of varieties of creation. By virtue of which the equilibrium of the three gunas of Prakriti that is disturbed. The time enters into it. In time, three gunas means that three forces you can imagine, no? So if suppose there is a ball and we tie that with the three ropes and with equal amount of force with 120 degrees angle, if we pull, the ball will go which direction? Nowhere. Now, this balance is to come, that's why it will move. So, three gunas sometimes remain in balance. When destruction of the world happens, dissolution of the world happens, we call Maha Pralaya, great dissolution. The three gunas goes back to its balanced state. And now, when the disbalance comes, how the disbalance comes there? Time enters. Time is what? The power of the Purusha. In the Purusha, as you think as a human being, he thinks, I will now create. So movements come. That is as time he enters into Prakriti, etc. And then this creation begins. And Prakriti starts evolving from the indiscrete to the discrete condition. This is discrete. This is the discrete condition. Indiscrete condition was the subtle. From the subtle, he has the consciousness, much subtle, then enters into the elements and then manifests as first as grows subtle and then as gross. That is the only difference between Vedanta and Sankhya, that the 24 principles are true, eternal. Vedanta will say these are Maya, it is not there. But it will say, yes, it is true, it is there. And permanently there. Sankhya is permanently there. Why? These elements are needed. To manifest the world, the materials are needed. Consciousness alone, the oven, only the oven is burning. That does not create anything, any cooking material is not possible. Unless the cooking material are there, how the food will be there? So that's why these two items are real, but the consciousness, Purusha, is conscious entity, and in it has time, and in time the desire comes, it wishes and enters into the Prakriti, as if it's entering into the Prakriti, and all the transformation is happening in the Prakriti, in time, and in time it dies, it is withdrawn.
So in Mahapralaya, are the elements still there in Prakriti, or does it all go?
In Vedanta, this is all gone. So like ignorance is there, we see that. But we are reading Sankhya. They say no, that will remain. It is withdrawn, but the materials will remain. That's why two realities in Sankhya. Purusha is also permanent, and Prakriti is also permanent. The creation starts when they come in proximity, and that is in time. When it will happen? After millions of years it will happen. Or how long it will continue? Millions of years it will continue. Again it will be separated maybe. Again it will continue. So this creation continues. Both items are real. But Vedanta will say only one is real. Purusha is the only reality. And this unchanging absolute reality. And what you see is apparent. It is unreal. It is changing. It is happening. Nothing is there, but you are seeing. So that is the Vedanta. The Supreme 18 marks, the Supreme Being, by virtue of his divine power, pervades everything internally as the indwelling spirit and externally as time. This is the idea of Kapila in the Sankhya philosophy, that being the Supreme Being. What is the Supreme Being? The Purusha. Let me see what their Sanskrit says. Antaha Purusha Rupeno कालरूपेण यो बहि समन्वेति एष सत्तानं Bhagavan Atmamaya. This Bhagavan means here Ishvara. Ishvara, supreme being, by, by his own divine power, Atmamaya, his own power. Ishvara decides I will be many, but he is the Purusha, consciousness. Consciousness added with the help of, by virtue of his divine power, pervades everything internally. It penetrates into every pore of this creation, an indwelling spirit, as an indwelling spirit. Purusha is there behind. Suppose when we cook, just imagine the heat percolates into the water, first to the pan, then it goes to the water. Then water hits the items you have given, potato, rice, dal, whatever is there, or oil, whatever is everything, the heat is percolating in everything. And heat is percolating and going on all the jumping actions, good and bad, whatever is going on. And when we think when it is cooked, is cooking is done, you put this purusha off. But as the purusha made off, the burner is off, then what happens? After a short time, the heat which was percolated in every pore of the body, it is withdrawn. So they become dead again. So everything becomes conscious. Is the question how this world we see it is so conscious. How my hand, feet, mouth is working. It is because Purusha, the consciousness, has come into Prakriti, the 24 piece principle. Time, the power of Purusha, thinks that now to create, enters into it, and it is permeated by everything. Anyhow, so this is the explanation of Mahatattva. Right now not Mahatattva, but of the principle, 24 principle. Now 19 verse talk about Mahatattva or Hiranyagarbha. Now we are getting technical, very technical. 19. Impelled by the potential karma, moral efficiencies of past action of the jivas, Prakriti, which is like a fertile womb with regard to the Supreme Being, was brought into activity, impregnated by the will of the Supreme Being, the Ishvara, Icha, by the will of Icha or the Ishvara, Prakriti brought forth her first evolute. Prakriti was remaining in the isolated condition when Purusha, by the wish of Ishvara, came enter into the material objects. Prakriti brought forth her first evolute, first product came. What is the product? That is called Mahat Tattva. Mahat Tattva, all comprehensive entity of the golden hue. That means first creation is coming. It is called Hiranyagarbha. This golden hue means golden color. See, the heat, when heat comes, it's golden color. So the creation started with the golden hue coming from Purusha, entering into Prakriti, the first expression. It is also known as Hiranyagarbha, the golden cosmic shell, having within it the whole creation in a seminal condition. In Hiranyagarbha, means the Garbha means the womb, Hiranya means the gold, golden womb in which the whole creation was embedded, and from there it manifests. Ready to bring into manifestation the worlds latent in himself, he, the first school of creation, whose wisdom is ever steady and bright, absorbed by his brilliance all the darkness enveloping him. So this is the Hiranyagarbha wants to manifest himself in this manifested world. So what it does, the potential power was in the Hiranyagarbha. He, the first school of creation, first short shoot of creation, whose wisdom is ever steady and bright, absorbed by his brilliance, all the darkness. All the darkness, ignorance is absorbed by it, in enveloping it. Then what is called Mahat Tattva in the cosmic aspect has got involved in itself its own individual aspect known as Chitta. So in that Mahat Tattva, there is the in its core, it's called Chitta. What is Chitta? Chitta means the remembering faculty. Being dominated by Sattva Guna, it is pure, peaceful, and suited for the contemplation of the Lord. It is identical with Vasudeva, the first of the emanation of Vishnu. Water in its pristine state is free from impurities like dust, waves, bubbles, foam, etc., which are derived from other contextual sources. In the same way, Chitta, corresponding to Mahatattva, in its pristine state is pure, unmodified, and peaceful, and is capable, therefore, of revealing the glory of the indwelling spirit. So it's a Mahatattva, the firstborn manifestation of Ishvara into the reality of this world. But it's very subtle. There is no darkness in it, it is pristine, it is pure. That's why the indweller, we call the indweller. Now comes next Mahatattva, then comes Ahankar, ego. What is ego? Out of Mahatattva, quickened by the will of the Lord. Mahatattva was there, with potential power, full of bright and brilliance. It was inherent power of the Lord God Purusha. So in time, it started manifesting, and that is the Mahatattva. And out of that Mahatattva, quickened by the will of the Lord Purusha, who is inside, he wanted to manifest, was evolved as Ahankara, I consciousness, which is characterized by the power of expression in action in three ways. So I sense comes next. The three expressions of I manifested in three ways. Ego sense, Ahankara, Sanskrit called Ahankara. Bengali also we call Ahankara. Hindi also we call Ahankara. No? Ahankara, Aham. The three expressions of Ahankara, what are they? Vaikarika, the dominant by Sattaguna. Tejasa, or that dominated by the Rajaguna. And Tamasa, or the dominated by the Tamoguna. So this Ahankara takes three varied forms. One is Sattva, pure, Rajas, and another is Tamas. That means we see our ego, when it is pure ego, we call it Sattva. Mixed with arrogance and other Rajas. And Tamas ego is a deadly ego, full of ignorance and pride. And so one is called Vaikarika, which is called dominated by Sattva quality, Tejasa, Rajaguna, dominated by Rajaguna, and Tamasa, dominated by Tamaguna. These three are the sources of manas. This Sattva, Raja, Tama, these three gunas are ego. Ego, these three egos, these three egos are the source from which the mind or indriyas and mahabhutas, great elements, water, fire, etc., respectively, all come. This category of ahankara is diversified into mind, senses and the great elements, has at its presiding deity the Lord's emanation with 1,000 heads known as Sankarsana or Ananta. Meaning the mind is manifesting in thousands and thousands of ways. So that is considered as the Ananta Naga with 1,000 hoods on the head. That means it manifesting is ego manifesting in so many ways. He is not to be considered as separate from the infinite supreme being himself. That's why the Lord lies on the Ananta Naga. In the Hindu mythology, you find Narayana is lying on a snake, Ananta Naga. So with 1,000 ego, that is the expression of ego. But they are not separate from Ishvara. The characteristics of ahankara are the sense of agency. Agency, I. I is the sense of agency, instrumentality, and objectivity, and the experience of peacefulness, ferocity, and dullness. Three gunas. The ego will manifest in three ways. So, with 1,000 ego, that is the expression. Instrumentality and objectivity, and the experience of peacefulness, ferocity, and dullness. Three ways. Peacefulness is Sattva quality, ferocity is Rajas quality, and dullness will be the Tamas. It can be further explained thus. The jiva experiences the sense of being an agent because of the Sattvika aspect of ahankara. It feels identified with the instruments of knowledge, the senses, because of the Rajas aspect of ahankara. And it considers itself as body due to tamas aspect of it. The jiva derives peace from sattva, agitated state from the rajas, and the dullness and stupor from the tamas. So the three gunas manifest in different ways, and individual people like us, we feel identification with our mind as also. The ahankara, it is considered itself in itself a body due to the tamas aspect of it. The jivas, we are, derives peace from the sattva. Sattvika quality will always give us peace. Rajas quality always create agitation in the mind, and dullness and stupor that will come when you have tamas quality. So this is called the ahankara. Now the evolutes of ahankara. Ahankara again further manifesting. What are they? 27 verse. As an evolute of sattva aspect of ahankara. Now sattva, ahankara is manifesting three ways. Sattva, rajas, tamas. Now the sattva quality of the ahankara is manifesting something. The category of mind comes into being. So out of the mind's function called sankalpa, vikalpa. So what happens? Evolute of the sattvika quality of ahankara, ego, its sattvika quality manifest as it's called the manas, mind. Being out of the mind's function called sankalpa, desire comes. I will do this, I will not do this. It comes after I. We do not. I first. I say, I will do this. I will not. So, I is manifesting as sankalpa, desire. Sankalpa, imaginative identification with the body. And vikalpa, obsession with objects, desire is born. So, mind, then ego manifests in two ways. One is called the sankalpa, that means identifying with the body. I will do this, I will eat, I will walk. So all this I is mind, through the mind, it is manifesting this desire. And another way this is manifested in bikalpo, or the objects. I with the body eat. I with my leg walk. So this I added with mind manifest evolutes mind. Mind is acting two ways. Sankalpa and Vikalpa. Sankalpa, I will do this, I will want this, I will go this. And Vikalpa is the born or the obsessed with the objects. I want to get this. I am a physical body, one thing, Sankalpa. And Vikalpa is I want to get the objects. The category of Manas mind is presided over by the emanation of the Lord known as Aniruddha. They have turned one deity for that. Only if that, because behind everything in Hindu ideal there is some gods and goddesses, means the divine power. And he is called Aniruddha. Government's power, no? In the in different departments you go, there are different positions. And they have tremendous power, no? Finance department, education department, then say military department, they have that been all power of government. But these powers are the power of God only, the power of the government only. Similarly, this is power and his name is the military general. He is called the Aniruddha. Yogis worship him in devout meditation as the deep blue complexion, like looking at Aniruddha, how to meditate. Ordinary sadhakas do meditate on Aniruddha, worship him in devout meditation as of deep blue complexion, like an autumnal blue lotus, and as controlling the senses. Aniruddha, they worship, thinking that all our sense organs are controlled by one God whose name is Aniruddha. And they worship the God in that particular form to make a control over, to bring control over their senses. From the Rajas aspect of Ahankara is evolved buddhi, through which functioning thought is enabled to the different modes and the sense to function effectively. The several characteristics of buddhi as expressed through its several modes, buddhi as expressed through its several modes of functioning are the following to light while you are going outside. লাইটটাকে জোর করে দাও ওটাকে হাই The several characteristics of buddhi, as expressed through its several modes of functioning, are the following: to feel doubt about the attributes and nature of things, to have mistaken knowledge of a thing, to have settled and correct understanding of a thing, to have memory of expression already had, and to be an inoperative and blank state in sleep. So he says that the several characteristics of buddhi can function in several ways to the several modes of functioning. How? It may be working as doubt in our mind. Mind is doubtful. So it can function as doubt. And to have mistaken knowledge of a thing, understanding wrongly. That is the Buddhist function. To have settled and the correct understanding of a thing. I understand the thing rightly. I understand the thing wrongly. I am doubtful about that. These are all mind or intellect functioning in different ways. And to be incorporated and blank when it sleeps, all these things becomes nullified. When you go to sleep, that time I don't have any sense of, not dream, but when you go to sleep, I have no judgment, I have no idea of good and bad. I don't stop from one thing to do, or I shall do one thing, not stop. All these things get stopped, closed there. The 10 senses, 5 pertaining to knowledge and 5 to action, are also evolved from the Rajas aspect of Ahankara. They have already said, from the Rajas part of the Ahankara. Ego has 3 parts, no? Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. The Rajas part is the Ahankara for the organs of knowledge, being the channels for the function of the buddhi, are themselves produced of buddhi and evolved of Rajas aspect of Ahankara. And the organs functioning are the products of prana, to which the power of the movement belongs. And the prana too is a product of the Rajas aspect of Ahankara. Thus, the organs of actions too are to be traced to the Rajas aspect of Ahankara. Anyhow, organs are the source of coming from Ahankara. So, what we read, it's one we read about Mahatattva, Mahatattva to Ahankara, Ahankara to Buddhi. And Buddhi manifests in so many ways. Now, Tanmatras, Indriyas, and Bhutas, they are, who are they? It's a more technical thing. So let us read. We'll have to read anyway. Tanmatras. Tanmatras is the subtle items. These are gross items they talk about. Now go in a final level. Being stimulated by the Lord's will, the tamasa aspect of ahankara comes into being. So sattva they have talked about, rajas they have talked about, now they are talking about tamas. From tamas the senses come, this gross. So ahankara comes into being, now stimulated by the Lord's will. What is the will? Tamas aspect of ahankara comes into being. And from that it emerges the matrix, that means the tanmatras of sound. And from this in turn comes the element ether. The ear, evolved from the rajas aspect of ahankara, captures the sensation of sound. So the sound is created, but ears are necessary to have that sound, get it. That's why from the tamas aspect, these ears are created and also sound is created. The distinguishing feature of sound are as follows. It always indicates a source, even if invisible, as when man is shouting from an unseen spot. Hence, gross sound has a subtle source that is its tanmatra. He said that someone is shouting from a point, but that has a subtle aspect of its tanmatras, because we can look at that corner where the sound coming from and hitting my eardrum, this side, or that side. Someone is calling me from that corner, and when the sound comes back, it hits my ear, then I turn my eyes, oh, where is the God? Who is calling me? So these are also the product of the tanmatras. Hence, gross sound has a subtle source, and that is called the tanmatras. Next, sound conveys meaning. Not only sound, whenever any sound, it conveys some meaning. It conveys some meaning. The word, there is fire, some sound comes. And every word, when it hits our ear, we have some expression of understanding what it is. It also provides a subtle source for the element of ether, space. The signs indicating the various manifestations of ether are evident in the possibility of divisiveness for objects, enabling each object to exist with interspace, separating it from the other in the experience of within and without, inference, in reference to objects, and in accommodation of distinct entities of like prana, indriyas, and mind in living beings. Prompted by the evolutionary urge of the time, the element ether, which in a subtle tanmatra condition is identical with the sound. They are all getting into this how this sound, our Upanishad says, Akasad, Vayu, Agni, Rapo, that type it is coming from space. And from space coming the sound. Sound is creating the corresponding receiving element is the ear, that all these connections are coming from the same Purusha manifesting through Ahankara. The skin is the origin organ that perceives touch. Similarly, now they talked about the ear, five sense organs of perception. One is the ear, another is this touch. So the skin is the organ that perceives touch. It is the nature of tanmatras of touch. Touch has a subtle aspect of it that is called tanmatra, to produce such sensation as softness, hardness, cold, heat, etc. The properties of air element, that is evident from the various movements outside, by its conveying sound from a distance to the hearer, and by its functioning in the body as the agent spreading the energy of the organism to all the parts and senses. Through the functioning of providence, the element air, which in its subtle tanmatra condition is identical to the touch, produces the tanmatras of rupa. Oh, these are all talking about how the sound is giving the feeling of understanding. Rupa, the eyes can see things. So these are all coming from which sources they are given like that. We need not have to go so far. And then they're talking about the Virata Purusha. The seven above mentioned categories, starting from Mahatattva, Ahankara, and the five elements, remain separate, incapable of coming together to form the world and bodies for the living beings. Then the Supreme Being, along with the Kala, the time, karma, and gunas, disposition of Prakriti, enters into them, and stimulated by the power of the Lord, the primordial categories combine and form the cosmic shell which appeared to be inert. From it comes forth the Virata Purusha, cosmic person who is the substratum of all manifested existence. Cosmic shell is also known as Vishesha, is surrounded by seven layers of earth, water, air, fire, wind, sky, high sense, and Mahatattva. Each layer is 10 times extending the previous one on the cosmic shell, and all the worlds, gross and subtle, are located. They are their totality from the gross body and the Lord. My God, do you want to have more? No.
There are questions.
The question will be much difficult also.
No, then
Yeah.
Hiranyagarbha is the same as cosmic shell.
Yeah. Cosmic shell means from which the whole creation has come. I can finish this the next day because it is very. We need not have to go that much details. If you have the time and energy, then you can do. So let me finish. The great spirit dwelling in the golden hue cell, resting on elemental water, becomes active. Now, pralaya, great water, this cosmic shell is now acting and pierce this shell, as it were, in several places to form the sense apertures. The cosmic divinity first manifested his face. Out of its speech came out the speech arose fire, the deity of fire, along with the organs of speech, entered the face. So from the face coming the fire, etc. From the smell emerged the deity of air. Next, the hands and manifested them from them came the faculty of strength. Then the nadis, the blood vessels, manifested. So each individual how it came out. In the mind, its presiding deity, moon arose from the heart, arose the intellect. That's why the cosmic person, from his heart came the moon. That's why we are all so much emotionally connected with the moon. But when the principal sensory, none of these presiding deities were able to arouse the cosmic divinity, so they remained in their respective dwelling places with a view to rousing him gradually. And then, but when the principal sentiency, Kshetra Gan, as collective soul, entered the heart, then the cosmic divinity arose from the water, just as an individual person sleeping cannot be awakened merely by the power of prana, manas, and indriyas, but requires the presence of the jiva, embodied soul, so also it is only in the presence of the collective soul, Kshetra Gana, of the universe, that the cosmic divinity functions, separating that all pervading spirit in oneself from the body and mind combination through the practice of inward concentration. Let an aspirant commune with him with the help of devotion, renunciation, and enlightenment. This is the easy part. Last line is separating that all pervading spirit in oneself. In me, there is a all pervading spiritual space, pervading spirit, and let an aspirant commune with him with the help of devotion, renunciation, and enlightenment, enlightened understanding. So we ended there, chapter 26. We'll read next day, chapter 27. That is Kopila Upadesha, the way of release. Now the creation has been described. Next day we'll read how we can get out of this. That is more realistic for us. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. So we'll meet again at 7:30 p.m. for our Shanti Gita class. By that time, we have 2 questions probably. I have heard that by worshipping Shankarsana, one can be freed from false ego and be centered in Sattva Guna. Worship Aniruddha to be freed from mental disturbance. How does one worship these deities? You know, these are old ideas of God worshipping in so many ways. I also do not know all these divine entities. But if we think all these have been created by God, one God, who is the Saguna Brahma, say your Rama, say your Krishna, come back to very practical, realistic sadhana. Then we keep them and ask for whatever. He is Sankarsana, he is Aniruddha. No? All the divine names are the powers of God, one God. So if one prays to God and meditates on God in the aspect, whatever aspect, all these desires will be fulfilled. So we need not to worship individually for this. People do that. You can go to the finance department to ask some grant. But if you have the access to the president, so you don't need to go there. You just go to him, automatically finance department will release the fund, or whatever is needed. So we normally think that you go to God is only one. In whatever aspect you worship Him, you think that you are worshipping the same simple, that ultimate reality. And you ask whatever you ask. Ramakrishna said, God will give it. If you are sincere, God will give you whatever you want. Does desire originally arise from the mind or the heart? How can anything come from the mind and not come from the heart first?
This is important. This explanation.
The heart does not have components that manifest as thinking, but it does so strong changes to emotions, but it cannot itself feel. So this is the
And then next, the mind that.
this is the brain mind. Anyhow, so who thinks and who feels? So I think question is that heart is
Can anything?
heart, not the mind. Mind and heart. It says that the heart, your question is, does desire originally arise from the mind or the heart? If we say heart, you mean the physical heart.
No, psychologically they are different.
Hey,
That define that one.
how can anything come from the mind and not come from the heart? So let us go to the psychological difference. Google is saying, what is the psychological difference? Psychological difference is in mind and heart. The heart does not have components that manifest as thinking, but does show strong changes to emotions, but it cannot itself feel it. The brain mind, which is called mind normally, allows us to think, feel, and act using many systems of neurons that work together. The brain mind creates emotions and thoughts. So brain mind or mind creates the thoughts. That is the point. Heart does not have any component that manifests as thinking, but it does show strong changes. When the mind thinks, it shows some changes in the heart. That's right. But mind is the origin, not the heart. That is the Google is saying psychological difference. Okay. Thank you all. Jai Ma. See you again. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.